Welcome to The Art of Business. I'm your host, Eric Baker. I sit down with entrepreneurs right here in Dade City and the surrounding areas to find out about their backgrounds, how they built their businesses, and what their secrets for success are. Today, I'm joined with Mr. Greg Gude. Greg is the general manager of Kumquat Growers Incorporated. Kumquat Growers Incorporated are the largest producer of kumquats and kumquat products in the entire country. They are located at 31647 Gude Road. That's Gude Road in Dade City, Florida. Kumquat Growers Incorporated are fourth and fifth generation Florida farmers. In 1883, their grandparents came to settle in the community now known as St. Joseph. Most of the St. Joseph residents grew strawberries, citrus, and vegetables. Residents began growing kumquats in 1914. Today, St. Joseph is known as the kumquat capital of the world, and the annual Kumquat Festival in Dade City, Florida draws over 40,000 attendees each year. Greg and I discussed some of the challenges they've faced in the industry, how they've secured funding in the early stages, how they hired their first employee, what he predicts to be the future of the kumquat industry, and a whole plethora of other topics. But first, Greg explains to us what exactly a kumquat is.
A kumquat is a citrus-like fruit. It's smaller than an egg. It's oval in shape, and it is eaten peeling and all. The inside is tart, and the outside is sweet. So it's kind of the opposite of an orange. Okay. My father always referred to it as nature's sweet tart. And they grow, they bloom. They're a relative of citrus. They're different than an orange because they bloom in May, June, July, August, and September. So they have multiple blooms on them. Unlike oranges, bloom one time, normally between March and April. Sure. And they, when you harvest them, you pretty well much are done once you harvest them once. Yeah. Well, in kumquats, they ripen in different stages, so they have to be hand-picked. Okay. Then they're brought in. They were originally used for decorations. Sure. Back in the early 1900s, they were used in citrus boxes up into the 1970s and 80s and even 90s. They were used in citrus boxes. When they'd ship a box of citrus home, they would have these kumquats in there. But with disease and everything that's gone on, sure, we ended up having to quit shipping with leaves. So we had to re-identify what a kumquat was, its uses. Its big use, one of the big things it originally was used for, of course, was eating itself, because you eat the whole fruit. The other thing was it was made marmalades and jellies and chutney and some other little items that they did. But its main, whole preserved kumquats, its main use was kind of, if you eat one and then you have a little sip of water between level or different plates on your different servings on your plate, yeah, it would cleanse your palate. So when you went into the next item, your mouth would be refreshed and cleaned. Okay. And that's the way the Asians and the Chinese and the Japanese used the kumquat. It was always a bowl of them on the table. There also were used in Chinese New Year's. Chinese New Year's is the 13th moon. It's normally the first moon in January, or late January, early February. Okay. They celebrate that. It's a big New Year's celebration. They hand each other. They had some week-long celebration with the last day being the Chinese New Year's, and it represents the different signs of their calendar. I don't know what this year's was, but the different signs in theirs. Sometimes it's dog and sure, the cat and whatever else they have. Yeah. But we used to send branches 8 to 10 inches long to New York for that, and it to them is like our Christmas tree. They would hand you a branch of kumquats, and by the determination of how many ripe, colored, green they were, would determine your health and wealth and and fortune in the new coming year. Okay. So they were very, very big about that. Yeah. That was one of our big things that we did. Huh. Of course, when disease came in, we lost that. The citrus canker was the first thing that kicked us, and that was after the 1983-85 freeze. In about 1987, citrus canker was noted throughout the state, and they quarantined the whole state. By quarantining, we could no longer ship kumquats without leaves. To kind of give you history back to how kumquats were originally done, the old farmers would go out, they'd take their family out there, they'd pick their kumquats, then they'd haul them down to the train station in San Antonio or in Blanton or in Dade City, and they would leave them there. When my father was 18 years old, back to be about 1948, they would do train car loads of them in San Antonio. They'd go down there and fill train car loads, and that's a lot of kumquats.
Yeah.
And they were with leaves. They were normally picked with 1 to 2 leaves and just the fruit. Now, that was used strictly for decorations, but people up north, they don't throw anything away.
Yeah.
So they made tea out of the leaves. I don't know that that's really a good thing to do, but they did. They used the fruit to make marmalades and jellies. You can also use it as you would a lemon. You could cut it, slice it, put it in water, put it over some fish or some pork or as a tenderizer. A big thing they were used later in life was the old honey baked hams. You would see this little tiny orange kind of dried up, shriveled up fruit in the honey.
Yeah.
That was a kumquat. Okay. And they used to buy a lot of kumquats from us. Then they would, like I said, they whole preserved them. They put them up in in the late 50s, early 60s, 70s, 80s. They put them in a brine solution, which was sulfur dioxide and water. And so that way, during the off season, they could make their marmalades and jellies.
Okay.
Because back in the heyday, before the 83, 85 freeze, there were little tiny fruit stands all over, up and down all the roads, all the small towns, all the crossroads. You saw a little citrus stand there. Yeah. And in that citrus stand, they'd have a little tiny room. Sometimes might not be bigger than 8 by 10. Yeah. And in there, they'd have marmalade and jelly. But one thing they'd always had kumquat marmalade. Uh-huh. That was kind of the go-to thing.
Okay.
And, remember, it doesn't have the bitter peel. So when you leave that peel in there as a marmalade, it makes it sweet. So, as time, our biggest industry really, though, was always selling the wholesale fruit. Okay. We sold it to grocery stores. As time went on, the business, to give you a little history about Kumquat Growers, my father was in 1970, early 71, late 70, early 71. His friend that had a kumquat business where our current packing house was being transferred out of Dade City with American Can. He was being moved up to Tennessee. So he had started a kumquat business, and he had kind of built our shed, originally that's now our gift shop. He had kind of built that, and he was moving, so he told my dad, "Hey, you want this business? It's for sale." Dad says, "Well, I don't really have the money to buy it, but let me see what I can do." So he went and found four of his cousins, friends. Back then you were in St. Joe, you were either a cousin or a friend or both.
Sure.
So he went and found these 4 other guys, and they formed Kumquat Growers, and that was in June of 1971. So our first season was 71, 72. Last year was our 50th season that we had been in. As time went on, they started, and it was kind of run as a part-time business. It wasn't anybody's primary income because they all had jobs. 2 of the original founders were in the chicken business. They raised eggs. One of the other guys was a carpenter. Another one was a salesman at a lumber company. And my dad worked for the LP gas company. So he was a sales manager of the LP gas company, and he delivered fuel all times of the night and all kinds. But my mother really kind of ran the business. After the first few years, she ran the business because she was a stay-at-home mom. I had 6 brothers, so we had a pretty good workforce there. Sure. And every one of those families that were involved in it, their kids all worked, and their cousins, and everybody that was anybody came there because it made you Christmas money, because we would start in November and we would run normally till just before Christmas, and then we'd kind of shut down. Okay. Harvesting was the biggest problem. Harvesting's still one of the biggest problems there are. Okay. We didn't have, we could get harvesters in the very beginning, but the minute orange season started up, we would lose our harvesters. Okay. So us as kids, we'd come home from school, get off the school bus, we'd look down and see if there were picking sacks. Well, we didn't ride a school bus. Well, later in life we did, but we walked home from school, went uphill both ways. We would get home, and if the picking sacks were there and the clippers, we knew we had to go pick some kumquats.
Sure.
If it didn't, then it meant we had to go up to the packing house and make boxes.
Gotcha.
Because everything was packaged in a box that held 16 quarts of kumquats with leaves. So as time went on and, things changed and the business got kind of bigger and bigger, after the 83 freeze, the other two companies that were involved in the kumquat business out there, they went out of business.
Okay.
And then as time went on, we branched out a little bit, bought some more land, planted some more kumquats. We got into some retail. We had a little store called Katie's Country Corner. Well, after the 83-85 freeze, when kumquats because all those fruit stands closed down, kumquats kind of lost their identity. My mother created the Kumquat Pie. It is a simple pie to make. It consists of Cool Whip, sweetened condensed milk, lemon juice, and kumquats, and a pie shell. That's all you need. Anybody can make it if you have the ingredients. It doesn't take a baker to do it, because believe me, I'm not a baker and I make many of them. But we started promoting the pie, the marmalade, the jelly on our labels in our little pint clamshell that we sell to Publix and other grocery chains. You open it up and it gives you the kumquat pie recipe and the marmalade recipe and how they are and what they're, how to use them. Or also it refers to our website where you can come and find more information, which is kumquatgrowers.com.
Yes, sir.
And by doing that, we promoted this pie. Then they developed the Kumquat Festival 25 years ago. This was the 25th in 2022. So I'd have to do the back math to come back to figure out what year it was. But they developed the Kumquat Festival because Dade City was looking for something to bring the people to Dade City.
Okay.
By then, my father had retired, and I was also a fireman, so I worked a day and was off too. So I kind of became the general manager of the place, but with me and my father both working. He had retired from the community college. He also had a military retirement.
Sure.
So he was kind of set. There again, it was nobody's, primary income. Even myself, it was a secondary job.
Okay.
So as time went on, with the Kumquat Festival, the city wanted to have a festival. They didn't know when to do it. So these three ladies got together. They went out to lunch. They were sitting there and they were talking about this festival. And the one lady was wearing one of our Kumquat Growers shirt that had our emblem on the side. And they're saying, well, what are we going to do? What were we going to call this festival? And someone, that was sitting around there saw the shirt and overheard their conversation. Well, why don't you do it about kumquats? Yeah. Nobody knows what a kumquat is. Yeah. Well, it got very, very popular.
Okay.
People want to know what a kumquat is. You hear the word, you hear it in shows. Somebody, W.C. Fields is my little kumquat. He referred to his wife as. Yep. So we all know what she was. She was sweet on the outside, tart on the inside. So, So as that time went on, our problem always had been labor. We use kids and children and, if you were related to us, which most people in St. Joe were related to the Gudes, Newhoffers, Bartles. So you kind of fit in one of those categories. You worked there before after school. On the weekends, any holiday there was, you were able to work at the packing house, and you did anything from out in the grove picking kumquats to coming in and actually helping us pack, helping us load and unload trucks, and doing all the things that we ended up doing.
Sure.
As time went on, things changed. We had to do things different. Like I said, when we got into the citrus canker, we had to sell this product that was without leaves. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what it was. Mm-hmm. The Kumquat Pie was one of the big things, and everybody makes pies all over the place. Now, my mother had the original Kumquat Pie recipe, and everybody's altered it and bastardized it and done whatever to change it a little bit. And I did too. Our rosemary Kumquat Pie that we make it. We make it anytime we make 250 of them at a time, basically. and then we wholesale them and retail them out of our shop and out of other areas, other places in St. Joe, Dade City, San Antonio, and also even over in Trinity.
Wow.
At different shops that we have that are carrying the pie now. And we named that after my mother. Well, just back a couple of weeks ago, Pasco County declared it with the tourism board that it was going to be the Sports Coast Pie, Pasco's Pie, and then the county commissioners jumped on board, and now it is considered Pasco County's pie. Their premier pie, their official pie is
Really?
the Kumquat Pie.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, that just happened. So we went to a county commission meeting that was in the old courthouse in Dade City, which is one of the quaint things about Dade City, and one of the neatest things. It's got one of these old-fashioned brick courthouses, and if you've never seen it, you need to come see it because it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was built in I think the early 1900s, and of course it was added on to, and then they went in. When Sylvia Young was commissioner, and she had them restore it back to its almost original state.
Okay.
So they still hold county commission meetings there. They're held one Tuesday here in Dade City, and then the other Tuesday they're held over in Newport Richey.
Okay.
So, we have a difference in our county where we have to have meetings in two different places. Sure. I don't know of any other county that does that, but, we are in Pasco County.
Yeah,
so.
yes, sir, yes, sir,
So,
yes, sir.
But anyway, getting back to the kumquats, as time went on, the Kumquat Pie is probably one of the biggest things, most exciting things. Now they're making beer. That's another little story that we'll get to in a little bit.
Okay.
The marmalades, we make 18 different products now.
Okay.
We make kumquat marmalade, kumquat jam, kumquat pepper, kumquat ginger, kumquat salsa, kumquat with kumquat jam with strawberry, kumquat jam with strawberry and blueberry, kumquat jam with peach.
Holy cow.
We make a salsa, we make a hot salsa, we make a vinaigrette dressing, we make a chutney, and we now have a hot sauce that we just released this past year. Was the first hot sauce.
Nice.
And it is truly a hot sauce.
Okay.
Our products are manufactured or processed in Georgia. We take the puree up there because it's done off season, and it's easier for them to do it than for us to put in a jelly room. And they've helped us create a lot of our recipes. We have a kumquat marinade too. I forgot about the marinade.
Marinade, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
And that marinade actually is a recipe that was a old Cuban recipe. A friend of mine's from Cuba's grandmother's recipe for a marinade, and it used sour orange. Well, we removed the sour orange and put kumquat in. Okay. Kumquat juice. And so that, we altered it to do that. So that recipe really is kind of a bastardized recipe of an old Cuban marinade, mojo, whatever you want to call them. That's what they call them, is mojo. Okay. A marinade. So it's great with chicken. It's great with fish. And you can do little chicken thighs or chicken legs and marinate them and then put them in the oven or put them on the Barbie with the grill, or even fry them and put them in a pan and just cook them up. And it is one of the best things we've had. I've liked it for years. My kids aren't real fond of everything I do, but I am. But so those are what we've done. Now that has all been to help promote and push kumquats, to teach people what to do with them. Sure. 25 years ago, when we started the Kumquat Festival, we used to give away probably close to 15 bushels of kumquats that we would let people try. And there's about 1,000 kumquats in a bushel of kumquats. So if you figure each person trying, and that was done at the Kumquat Festival mainly, or if we had some other markets that we went to, we would let people taste and try kumquats. Sure. We went and did stuff at the state fair. We did stuff at some other fairs, Pasco Fair. Yeah. Up at the Moultrie Ag Expo. We were up there for 5 years in a row, identifying people, and we taught people, and people up there actually planted kumquats and do grow kumquats up in those regions up in southern Georgia. Okay. Kumquats can be grown from Key West to southern middle Georgia. Not commercially. We're the only place that are being grown commercially in the state of Florida right now.
Oh, really?
We're
Okay.
not saying we're always going to be, but right
Sure.
now we have about 6,000 trees planted, which is equivalent to about 60 acres of kumquats. Like I said, now you pick them 5 times, so that's like picking 300 acres of kumquats.
Sure,
not,
sure.
Not, of course, we were damaged in 2012. We had a decline in our trees. We didn't know what was going on. By 2015, we were wiped out. All of our trees, that some of them were as old as 80 years old,
right,
died from the disease. We replanted. We thought we had everything great. 2017. That we planted in March, and then we planted again in October. Mm-hmm. In 2018, we had a backdoor sneak freeze that snuck in, mm-hmm. and it was only supposed to be 28 degrees. It ended up being 20 degrees for just a short period of time, mm-hmm. but they were young, baby, little tiny trees, so they got hurt. Mm. And then we've just been fighting what had messed with us was the citrus root weevil, which they come in and they come in. They were originally brought here from Puerto Rico in 1965. They were controlled with 2 chemicals, chlordane and another one called aldine or something to that nature.
Okay.
Both those chemicals have been outlawed. It's illegal to sell them in the United States.
Okay.
But they eradicated them then. Well, what happened was the shelf life, or the life of chlordane was about 30 years. It had a third life. A quarter life, I mean. And so if you did the math from the time the last time we used it, which would have been 86 to 89, they started dying close to 30 years later. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was this beetle comes in. It mates with a female. The female flies to a tree. She lays eggs. Then she flies to the next tree and lays eggs. The eggs turn into a little larvae. She can lay from 40 to 600 eggs at a time. So she lays these eggs. They turn into larvae. They fall on the ground. They find something. They burrow down the edge of the tree, mm-hmm. eating the bark along the way. Mm. They go down. They go around the taproot, which is what is dependent. The tree is dependent on in times of drought or moisture issues. And then from there, they go back and travel out on all the little roots and feeder roots, and they dig little troughs along the edge of them. Well, that allows foot rot to get in. So by 2016, we had no trees on the property.
Oh my God!
We were down to a minimal. But after freezes and everything, we kind of got our back on our feet. We're getting there. We're still having some issues.
Sure.
I had a little bout with COVID last year.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't allowed to do anything in the grove this past summer, and the trees saw it this year. You could tell that they had lost their baby and pampering that I had been giving them.
Yeah.
We're still, on our road to recovery, mm-hmm. but the hardest thing has been labor, and labor is always hard.
Sure.
It's hard work for the harvesters to go out there and harvest the field.
Oh, I bet.
We were blessed. 40 years ago, we had a family come to us, and they wanted to pick kumquats. They didn't want to pick oranges because it was too, the oranges were too heavy. Mm. They would do it after we got done with kumquats. Normally in January, they would go and pick the oranges, but they really started. So they got together a crowd, a group of people, and they were migrants, and they would come stay here. We helped them form a homestead here. And got them, established.
Yeah.
Got them to where their families would come during the harvest season. Yeah. And at one time, they were picking 300 to 400 to 500 bushel a day. Okay.
Holy
in
cow.
our peak year, we picked 18,500 bushel, and that's without leaves. That's
and there's 1,000 kumquats per bushel.
There's 1,000 kumquats per bushel, and they weigh 45 pounds apiece.
Wow.
So if you do the math, it was tonnage.
Yeah,
big tonnage.
Sure.
That's why we could claim that we were the world's largest.
Yes, sir.
Even last year, we picked 45,000 pounds of kumquats.
Jeez.
Over 45,000, close to almost 5,000, 45, almost 50,000. Uh-huh. Because the trees like it. They grow. They put their fruit on like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of issues, a lot of problems. We're doing, we used to in the old days, we could plant a tree out there. It would grow. You'd fertilize it, water it. You'd take care of it the first year. After that, it would just grow and put fruit on it, just more and more and more every year.
Yeah.
Now, it don't work that way.
Okay.
You got to go out there, hi tree, nice to see you. I love you.
Yeah.
I love you. Let's please help me.
Right.
Don't die on me, please.
Yeah.
And we're still losing trees.
And you said you could pick them multiple times?
We pick
so they grow back
times.
quickly then.
Well, the fruit has different stages. Remember I talked about the 5
Yes, sir.
months that they bloom.
Mm-hmm.
So you pick the first crop in early November.
Mm-hmm.
The second one in from November from early November, from mid-November to late, and then you just basically falls through your 5 months. That's why we can run from November to normally April.
Gotcha. I see.
So and then what we would do is kind of one of the things when we were really booming and rocking and rolling, we used to throw 10% of our product away. Now, we paid the picking, we paid the grower, we paid the hauling, we paid the processing, and we didn't back charge them like the citrus industry does, because the citrus industry would back charge and just make that money up. What we would do is we would take the fruit and we would feed it to our cattle.
Sure.
Because we couldn't do nothing with it anyway. Well, I had a guy come and he talked to me and he said, if you analyze the kumquat and you have the makeup of a kumquat and hops are basically they're almost mirrored. They both have bitter. It's the same. He was looking for something cheaper to make his beer out of.
Okay.
With the hops, I had a surplus of kumquats at the time.
Yeah.
So I said, well, here, go see what you can do. You come to me, and they were already doing kumquat flavored beers all over the place. Mm-hmm. So he kind of got me going down this road of processing these kumquats, putting them in using our puree instead of using the whole kumquats like he initially wanted to do.
Okay.
He could take this kumquat puree and make his beer, and then flavor his beer with it and make a kumquat beer.
Yeah.
It got very popular. The guy wrote an article and it got published, and Tampa Bay Brewing, of course, entered theirs into one of the national contests. And the Quat won first place the first year they ran.
No way.
And then it, placed second multiple years after that.
Yeah.
So Tampa Bay Brewing makes a Quat beer. It is available at Publix and some other places also. Some of the local stores around here.
Sure.
And some of the other, they also carry it at their 2 breweries. The one in West Chase and the one in Tampa.
Okay.
But they weren't the only dog in town. There were a lot of dogs in town.
Okay.
Well, when we lost everything, we lost that. But I kind of I was using that as a way of getting people to remember kumquats.
Sure.
Because I knew we had lost everything, and we had already done that one time and had to recover and rebuild it. So I figured if excuse me, if I got these young guys that were going out here spending $7 for a beer, and we got the guys to have kumquat beer, that they would flip open their phone and see what a kumquat was, find out it's an edible fruit. Of course, they're young guys. I'm not going to say they were 18 to 25, but let's say they were 21 to 27.
Yeah.
Well, by the time we would get back on our feet, which was 5 to 7 years, they would be now married with children.
Sure.
Almost their kids in school. If they had kids, they would have their kids in school. They'd walk down the aisle. They'll see the Publix. They'd be in Publix. They'd see the kumquats sitting there. Let's buy some of those.
Gotcha.
So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Genius.
I mean,
Genius.
it was, so it worked. It works. It's still working. I can't supply all the brewers with all the kumquats that they need because I just don't have the availability of it.
Wow.
But we've been able to keep certain breweries going with the kumquat. In Dade City, the Little Gem is a kumquat that's made with the sweet kumquat. It is. They're just getting to where I think in the next couple months they're going to be able to branch out and get into distribution in the stores and bars and stuff to that nature.
Wow.
But it's a good little beer. Like I said, the Quat beer at Tampa Bay Brewing is excellent.
Huh.
There's also several other breweries that have kumquat beer around here. I can't remember all of them.
Yeah.
But during the festival, they all came out of the woodwork. There were, I think, 5 different Quat beers in there. They also had a kumquat cider. They had a kumquat wine that Dade City Brew House had made.
Really?
A kumquat wine. We had a guy that used to make it. The pandemic killed him because he would sell his wine. He was a fireman and he got injured and anyway retired and disability, and he built him a winery up in Interlaken, and he was doing real well. He was going around and doing the Renaissance festivals and selling his mead and his wine.
Yeah.
Well, when the pandemic came in, that was something that they were gone till just recently. They opened up. So how could you live without any income?
Right.
He kept his winery open, but it just wasn't enough so he sold his winery, and he was the one that used to make the wine for the Kumquat Festival, and also for the local people around here that carried it to sell it. Mm-hmm. This year they made 80 cases of wine, and they sold every one of them. They sold out within 2 weeks of the festival.
Wow.
So there, I told them, well, next year you need to make 200.
Yeah, sure.
Bottles, 200 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
So cases of wine. I mean, so that's their plan. So that they have it a lot longer.
That's awesome.
But it's the kumquat industry is a neat thing. I've spoken several other foreign countries, and I used to speak at Disney at the Food and Wine at a little thing they had that was called the Back to the Basics.
Okay.
It was a show that they used to put on in the old globe, the big golden globe.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to have a Back to Basics, and we did about kumquats, and it was always neat when you were done to talk to the people, and when they were a kid, their mother you would come to Florida, their aunt, uncle, sisters, cousins first. Someone would come to Florida and bring back kumquats, or they would come to Florida and there would be a kumquat tree in the neighborhood, and little stories, all the stories. But I ran into a Chinese guy, and he was telling me, he said, about the kin is what they refer to the kumquat as, and he was telling me, we use those for cough drops. I'm like, really? So the next year when I was there, he happened to come when I was there.
Yeah.
The same time, or, at the time, I don't know if he planned his by when I was there or what, but he came and he handed me a bag of these dried kumquats. And what they do is they take the kumquats and they put them in a jar, big, like a big giant water jug, like the water bottles for Zephyr Hills bottled water machines.
Sure.
And you fill it up, and then they fill it with salt, and they let it sit for 2 years.
Okay.
Then they drain the salt out of it, and then they use the kumquats for cough drops.
Interesting.
And so that was kind of a neat thing to learn.
Yeah.
He also introduced me to another girl introduced me to a Kumquat Tea, which the Kumquat Tea is you take 10 kumquats, you slice them in half, you heat it, bring it to a boil, and then let it seep, and then you put it in a jar, mason jar with a lid, and you drink it 6 ounces at a time until it's gone.
Yeah.
And you make several batches of that, and it will get rid of a cold.
Really?
It is amazing.
I had no idea kumquats were this widely used.
Kumquats are high in vitamin C, high in potassium, high in fiber. They're also antioxidants. They're they're a superfruit. They're higher than blueberries and grapes and all the other things that they claim to be. Mm-hmm. They also will help you lose weight because there's chemicals that are in there that react with your fat. Of course, I guess it did well with me because I'd probably be a lot bigger man if I didn't eat as many kumquats as this. But they tell you to eat 2 of them before a meal.
Okay.
And that they will help you with digestion.
Interesting. Interesting.
There's just a lot more that we don't know about them. I mean, they're just a mystical fruit.
Like it.
And there's if you as a country or as a nationality almost worship the kumquat, it's got to be for a reason.
Sure,
it had to have something special. I mean, I'd love to try to find the real story to it, but I don't have time to go to China and learn.
Yeah, right.
And right now, we don't really want to go to China.
Yeah, right. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I do look a little German, so I probably could get away with it. But it's been a bumpy road. The hardest part is just not being able to pay. I mean, we used to pay back in the day when it was $3 minimum wage. We paid $5, $6. Mm-hmm. We double minimum wage.
Sure.
Well, do you think I could do that now?
Right.
I can't afford double minimum wage.
Right. Sure.
Sure.
And
minimum wage in Florida is not $15.
Right.
It's $10.
Right.
I raised everybody's wages last year to $10 an hour in November.
Really?
After it passed.
Yeah.
Giving them a boost. So this
Sure.
year I would raise them to 11.
Sure.
We would be $1 over minimum wage.
Sure.
They were making $2 and some change over minimum wage last year.
Sure.
Well, they come to you and they want $15 an hour. That's what everybody's paying.
Yeah.
I can't afford.
Right.
I set my price on $11 an hour to, and that's what I'm paying you. That's not all the government money that we got to, workers' comp, unemployment,
Sure.
Social Security, all the other things that have to be added.
Yep.
The insurance,
Yep.
all the little hidden things that are in there that people don't understand.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part about business is labor is your expense.
Yeah.
In anything you do.
Yep.
It's we had an opportunity in 2015 to mechanize. And I looked at my father, and we had the money back then to do it. And I looked at my father, and I looked at our line. And our line was full of hardworking people, the retirees, or, they either worked lawn care or something, but we had a packing house. We had 15 of them in there. We worked 2 shifts. I mean, I looked at that and I said, we're sending these people, they're here working, they're taking this money, they're going and buying groceries, they're buying this, they're buying that in Pasco County. We're getting the money from all over the nation, some of it from overseas in Canada, even South and Central America. And it's coming to little old Pasco County, but it's being spent in Pasco County. We bought as much as we could in Pasco, Hillsborough, Hernando. We supported our local people.
Sure.
If we mechanized, we don't need but 6 of those people, or maybe 5. So we're going to line our pockets, not theirs.
Right.
So we didn't mechanize.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, now $15 an hour, you know what I wish? I wish I'd have bought the machine.
Yeah.
Right. Because then I could have paid them $15 an hour.
Sure.
But I'd only been working, 6 of them instead of working 15.
15, right.
And I mean, we're not even to the working 6 of them every week. I mean, we used to run every day. We ran 6 days a week from the first week of November, normally until we took Thanksgiving Day off. Normally the day before Thanksgiving, we were still doing some packing and stuff. We went right back to work on Black Friday. We never knew what Black Friday. It was actually one of our busier days because we were loading for Christmas, and we ran just 7 days a week till the 21st of December.
Yeah.
The 21st of December, normally they used to call it a trucking embargo, because so all the truckers could be home for Christmas.
Sure, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
We knew that was the 9th or 10th of December, busiest day we'd ever have.
Yeah.
We picked and packed 400 bushels of kumquats a day, 300 and 400 for that few days in there. We had semis coming in and out of our plant. We were meeting trucks all kinds of hours, and and it was a family business, so nobody was getting rich,
Yeah, sure.
And it was a part-time business, it didn't run 365 days a year. I've been, like I said, I've kind of been running the show for the last, 15, 20 years with my father. Of course, his time and age, he's 92 years old, 92 years young.
Yes, sir.
And he's still fit, and he could still come up there and work with me, but he opts not to. And, because it's not an everyday deal, and all he could see now is the money. And, we gotta conserve our money because we gotta make sure we get through till next year.
Right.
I mean, we had to sell land to stay in business. We've had to cut corners. Luckily, we had those good years, and we had enough reserve so that we could get to where we are today, because we had to start all over. Wow. It's not like a strawberry guy goes out there and plants a plant and he gets a strawberry off of it 6 months later. We plant a tree, we've got 5 years before we get enough to really say, hey, we're making some profit off of that tree.
Sure.
And that care is, a lot. But it's an exciting little fruit. It kind of perks up a lot of neat conversations along the way, and I enjoy that part of it. With one story here, I got thousands of stories. We can be here for the next 3 or 4 days. You may have to have multiple podcasts of this, over and over and over.
Sure.
But there was a guy who was telling us, him and his wife were at the Georgia Mountain Fair. And he had a Kumquat Growers shirt that we sell our shirts at the packing house, and they're either orange or green. Orange is my favorite, so everything's orange. Yeah, it's my favorite color. Of course, the green that comes from the orange works pretty good too. But anyway, so he was wearing a shirt, and somebody's asked him, well, what's a kumquat? So he starts talking. Now he had come to the packing house several times, and he knew what a kumquat was. So he started. His wife sitting there. After about 30 minutes, now it's not just him and this couple that asked him about kumquats. Now it's about 8 to 10 other people that have stepped out of the line to go into the fair are now talking to him. And she finally comes up to him after 45 minutes and says, "Are we going to the fair or are we going to the Kumquat Festival?" And she said, "I'm going to the fair. You coming with me?" So, but it's just cute little stories like that. You bring up the subject, and, it happens. It's just there are so many stories, and a lot of them are just, it brings back. I was out in the Grove filming with one of the local news stations, and the cameraman was there, and he was, when I was a kid, there were some kumquats. And I walked over to him, and I picked a kumquat off the tree, and I handed it to him. I said, "Here, eat that." He popped that kumquat in his mouth because he said they'd walk down this alley, and there was a kumquat branch that hung over, and they'd pick the kumquats off and eat them on the way to and fro school.
Sure.
And when he put that kumquat in his mouth, his face changed. He looked different. Yeah. He pulled the camera away from him. He kind of forgot what he was doing. And I spoke to him after it, and he said, "I was back on that street, walking down that alley at whatever age he was, 12 or 13 years old." Yeah. He said, "I was right back there." He said, awesome. That brought me right back. He said, "That was amazing." He said, I can't explain how the feeling that I had, so it's cool to hear things like that.
Yeah, of course.
It's cool to hear they're healthy. It's cool to hear you put them in your kid's lunchbox, and guess what? You know what they come home with? Maybe a couple seeds in there, not the orange peel or the apple core. There's nothing to throw away. The seeds actually create pectin. Pectin is what they use to firm up jellies. So when you make marmalade with them, you can leave the seeds in there, and it will help gel it up, make it firmer. Okay. And if you eat the seeds after they've been cooked, they're like eating a little pine nut almost. They're not real bad. You can skim some of those seeds off after you make it, but we actually, our marmalade, you can see seeds in it that are from that.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. All right, so now let's talk about you for a little bit. Your history, your background, where you're from. So you had mentioned to me before when I was out there at your store that you used to work in construction. You were a fireman. So I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and I see that you've been, you guys started in November of '89, so over 32 years. So what did you do before that? Was it construction and firefighter?
What I did, I was when I was in high school. I grew up in St. Joe. I grew up on a little dirt road, the end of Gude Road. Grew up with 6 brothers. Next door was my cousins, and they were 6 girls. So we had no girls, they had no boys. So we played ball in the yard. And anyway, when I was 14, I had the summer off, and I went to work for my uncle laying brick.
Okay.
I was a brick tender, so you carried brick, and he laid the brick, and you wiped and cleaned up the tools and mixed the mud and did all the wonderful things like that.
Yeah.
The next year, I ended up going to work for my uncle, and he my other uncle, they had a construction company. It was called Gude Brothers Construction Company, and it was my dad's 2 brothers, and they had me scraping floors and bucketing concrete and doing the things, that 15-year-old kids did. We were building the local church, the Sacred Heart Church in St. Joe, and we were also building St. Rita's Church in Dade City. After that, when I went back to high school, I did the work kind of release program. I always called it work release, because we'd get out at noon and we could go work in a job.
Sure.
And of course, being a cousin, I could get away with being able to work for them doing electrical tools and stuff to that nature back then.
Yeah.
So I worked construction. I learned how to build houses and build commercial buildings and do stuff like that. Became an electrician. While I was in high school, my senior year, in December, before I graduated in 1976, in December 75, they had a fire down the hill from us at a feed store. And I went down there. Of course, everybody always would go hang around, be part of the uh-oh squad, as the fire department calls it. Yeah. So I went down and was part of the uh-oh squad. And then in March, I joined the volunteer fire department and became a volunteer. I was only 17 years old, so they kind of kept me hidden in the background. My ambition when I was a younger child was to be an Air Force pilot.
Okay.
Our next door neighbor was an Air Force recruiter. He pretty well much had me set up to go. When I was 13, I got in a boating accident and got knocked unconscious for 72 hours. So that squished the ability to be a pilot for the Air Force.
Okay.
I wanted to I said, well, you know what, if you can't fly a plane, but you can fly a helicopter. Okay. So my intention was, when I graduated from high school, was to go into the Army and learn how to fly Apache helicopters.
Sure.
Or Blackhawks or whatever was there.
Yeah.
I dreamed it, slept it, wept it, wanted it. They wouldn't take you in pretty well much. In 1976, there was no draft. I never registered for the draft. Was 70. I think it was 76, 77, 78. There, if you ended up in the military, you were either in trouble. You were either going to jail or going to war. Yeah. That was your choices. So, like I said, this kind of fell into this fire department thing. And I went and, volunteered for several years. Went and applied for a couple of paid positions, and didn't get anywhere with the paid positions. Just kind of stayed in the volunteer. In the 1980s, my mother talked me into going to, or I guess it was in the late 70s, she talked me into going to school and becoming an EMT. So my brother and I went to Pasco Hernando Community College and became EMTs. And at that point, I had gone and gotten my firefighter certification, and there was a CETA program back in the 1970s. That was 1979 was when I went into the CETA program and became a firefighter. And in the 80s, I went to work. I'm 79. I went to work for Pasco County in the CETA program. In 1980, 81, I went to work for the city of Dade City. I was engaged to get married, got in a little bit of trouble with the department. You had the choice of either resigning or being terminated, so I resigned.
Okay.
Battled it around for a while. Then my mother talked me into, so it was in the 80s when I went and became an EMT. And after that, I ended up getting hired for Pasco County in 1987. Started off as just a firefighter EMT. Worked my way up through the ranks, became a battalion chief, became a lieutenant, a driver, then a lieutenant. Was a lieutenant for about 13 years.
Really?
Decided to be lieutenant in charge of a station, in charge of 5 people. About $1 million worth of equipment and housing and everything back in those days.
Okay.
Then I became a battalion chief in the 90s.
Holy cow.
And worked my way, became the senior battalion chief of our shift. And I was responsible for in the last part of my career for 8 stations worth, probably about was 42 people, 8 stations, multiple equipment, all kinds of special equipment, ladders and different apparatus, tankers, brush trucks, engines, rescues, chief's cars, all brush wagons, whatever there was all, my responsibility along with the things.
Yeah.
And I retired in June 30th, 2017. That was my 55th birthday. 59th birthday, excuse me,
Okay.
59th birthday.
Okay.
And I had 30 years and 9 days is what I worked every day right up to the end.
Right.
Got the golden handshake and got the CETA program. My ambition was to work the kumquat business 5 months out of the year and drift and wander.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, go on vacation, travel, see a lot of the world, because I worked all that time that I was a fireman. I worked at either in construction in the early years for my uncles or my brother when he had a construction business, and then after I had my son in my second marriage and ended up kind of being a single dad, taking care of my son all the time, my mother said, well, instead of you doing this, why don't you just bring your son and you can work the kumquat business. And so it was he's 33 years old, so 33 years ago I started doing that with her. And we ran it till Dad retired, and then when Dad retired, then me and him ran it together.
Sure.
But I had my son in the first few years of that until I got married again. And then my wife stayed at home because we got married 9 months later, almost 9 months and 1 day later, we had twins, twin girls.
Oh, wow.
So that we now had 3 children. And, you can't both work and put kids in daycare, 3 kids in daycare, and make any money.
Right.
Unless she worked at a bank, she worked for her father in the nursery business. So she wasn't out there making a great wage like a lot of people do today. So I worked at one time. I worked 3 jobs. I worked for the kumquat business. I worked for Saddlebrook Resort as their life safety officer. And then of course I did the fire department thing.
Wow.
I would have to, sometimes I'd take off work from the fire department so I could do the safety thing. Yeah. Because I, just trying to just keep money coming in, make what I could. Sure. In the family business, I always just kind of, got paid a wage. It wasn't anything great. It was more than minimum wage, but it was enough, because I could work so many hours. Being a fireman, you could work. There were times I could work 50 hours in a week because I had no 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock or 9 to 5. That kumquat business could be from 7 to 7 at night, and then meet a truck at 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, I had the hours. I was a workaholic. I worked crazy.
Sounds like it.
I didn't realize till I retired and the Kumquat business collapsed, how much I used to do.
Yeah.
Sure. And I don't know how I did it. Just, and my family suffered.
Just hearing you say it, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked basically for the family business. The average Joe works 2,100 hours a year for if you work a 40-hour week.
Sure.
With you take away holidays and everything, I think it comes to 2,080 or something of that nature.
Right.
I would work 2,400 hours working for the family business. Plus, when I worked for the fire department, our schedule was 2,970.
Wow.
2,970. No, 955 hours is what I think we. In other words, that was what your salary was based upon.
Yeah.
So when you added all that together, it's like, how did you do that?
Sure.
And it was because I had time off. I took vacation time off. I never missed the festival because I had to work. I always took the festival off. I thought I turned you off. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Shame on me.
Yeah, no big deal at all. No big deal at all.
No. But
this is fascinating.
I worked. I was a workaholic. I still am a workaholic. I'm not really. I've really slowed way down. I now get up when I want. I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd get up. I'd say there, okay, where did I wake up yesterday? Okay, I woke up at the firehouse. Good. Okay, then I'm at home, and that means I don't have to be at work till 7:30 to 8 o'clock. If I woke up and last night I spent the night at home. I got to go to the fire department. It's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I drive all the way to Land O'Lakes, which is 30-something miles.
Sure.
Pick up the car, go to our operations center in Land O'Lakes, and then drive all the way back to Dade City. Of course, I had to visit all my firehouses along the way. Get back there about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, work till sometimes 10 or 11 o'clock at night, get up at 5 o'clock, drive all the way back to Land O'Lakes to do the exchange.
Right.
And then drive all the way to the packing house.
Right.
To do that. So not only was I, of course, all that time I was being paid when I was driving back and forth from Land O'Lakes, but
sure,
that time from Land O'Lakes to the packing house and from my house to Land O'Lakes was my time. So you had another hour or so in there.
Yeah.
So I just still don't know how I did it. I just did it. I loved what I did.
Almost would have to.
I love everything that I did. I love kumquats. I love construction when I did it. I used to love working concrete. It was, it was hard work, but boy,
sure,
it was satisfying because when you got done, you had a pretty job there.
Yeah.
When we framed, I liked framing, because you got a lot done.
You know?
And electrical work, I really enjoyed doing that type of stuff, but. It's I just don't know if there's very many me people left.
I think you're pretty rare. I just based on what you're saying, I think you're a pretty rare guy.
But I love the job, and I kind of went through some little PTSD. After I got out of the fire department, had a little time driving around. You kind of remember the bad wrecks, and you remember this, and you remember. I never lost any of my soldiers. That was the good part. I never had. I had a couple of them that weren't no longer my soldiers. They were somebody else's that did oust themselves. But during my control, they didn't. But during being a fireman, being a chief. I did a lot of counseling, did a lot of as everybody's stories. But as I went around and I kind of reached the point where like I said, I had a little bit of kind of down in the dumps about. Doing what I did and how I did it. And I kind of said, well, I had a plan. My plan was to go be a pilot and go fly and be this wonderful thing. God had a different plan.
Sure.
And I saved lives. I saved hundreds of lives, thousands of lives. I landed helicopters. I landed more helicopters than probably military guys did in wars. I landed hundreds, maybe even thousands of helicopters in my career. Saving, directing them the helicopter in, having them land, telling them where to go, which patient to get, have them load up, get the next helicopter in, for the traffic accident, shootings, knifing, stuff to that nature.
Right.
So there was a lot of that, stuff kind of going through your head. You drive by the scene and you remember the little kid that got killed there, the little kid that got burned here.
Sure.
And I kind of said, I had a plan. God had a different one. So, I wanted to, fly something and blow things up, and he wanted me to save lives.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of think that he helped me through my times that, when I was troubled and kind of lost in what I was doing. He kept me, in a straight and narrow path.
Absolutely.
I'm a church-going Christian. I try to keep straight ways, and without everything he did for me, I probably wouldn't have been able to be where I am.
Sure.
The great thing was I ended up with a nice retirement. I ended up drawing Social Security. I ended up catching COVID last year in January. I had a very close call with death. My O2 sats were very low, and I went to the Lord and said, I'm ready. I think I've saved enough lives. I've done what you've asked me to do. I'm ready for you. If you want me, I'm here for you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I woke up the next morning and I'm still alive today.
Sir. Yes,
I
sir.
got better.
Yes, sir.
So, I still have a lot to do. I don't want to know what it all is.
Yeah.
But I enjoy being out in the grove, out in the peaceful quietness, or, the out there taking care of the trees, trying to help them get better and get through all this stuff. I kind of, like what I did there too, because I love talking about kumquats and I like talking to people.
Your
and,
face lights up when you talk about it.
Oh yeah. It does when I talk about the fire department too.
Yes, it does.
And the guys all thought,
yeah.
this guy, he's going to be. I walked out of there. I closed that chapter. I didn't open that book back up. I mean, my son is a firefighter paramedic.
Is he?
For Pasco County. He is working to become a captain. And
really?
I will go and visit him, but I don't go stop by fire stations and hang out with the guys like a lot of the retirees did and do. I just, like I said, I had a total of 42 years in the fire service.
Yeah.
And I'd done my share,
You've done a lot. Did you have a mentor? Like back in the early days, did you have someone to kind of show you the ropes and kind of help you out? And
I had a real good friend. His name was Chief Morgan, Mike Morgan. I remember him coming to when I was in, we had elementary school, then we had middle school, and I was in the middle school when they desegregated everything or whatever when they and so when I went to middle school, it was 5th and 6th, or 6th and 7th. Junior high school was 8th and 9th, and in high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Sure.
Well, when I was in junior high, the fire department came to do a demonstration about fire extinguishers and oil fires and how to operate them. And I watched this guy do this, and I thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about any of this stuff till later in life.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I didn't realize that's where I first saw him in action and met him. But we became friends when I got involved in the volunteer fire department of San Ann, and he started working he used to work for the city of Dade City. He retired from there and then went to Pasco County, and he's the one that kind of got me involved in the CETA program. And of course, when that all fell apart, then he got me to come in and put in an application, and that's when I got hired in 1987.
Gotcha.
To get in there to do that. So
okay.
he was kind of my mentor. He passed away this past year. He caught a disease that was basically his lungs were just slowly collapsing.
Yeah.
And there was no cure for it. And, we still talked and we, kept in touch up until the end there. And I regret not going and seeing him the last time he asked me to come visit him. So,
yeah.
But, he was one of these guys that he could never let go. I mean, he was from when he was a kid till the day before he died. He was just a blood-seeking hound dog that loved the fire service. You couldn't give him enough.
Yeah.
And he was well-versed. He was very knowledgeable. He was a instructor. He, taught and touched thousands of people.
Sure.
He was a good guy, but he was, I'd say, was my mentor as far as getting me involved in the fire service and keeping me in there. I mean, there was never a day I said, I'm done with this. I mean, there were times I was done because there wasn't enough money in it. But,
right.
Like I said, I get a nice little pension, and the money comes in whether I go out and do anything or not.
Yeah,
it still comes in the bank once a month.
Sure. So how did you guys go about? So it sounds like it was a family farm. So did you guys have to secure funding in the beginning?
When they secured funding in the very beginning, that's why Dad invited his friends to come do that. They all initially put in money in the beginning.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's how they formed Kumquat Growers.
Okay.
Now, from where it is now, where it goes, I have 6 brothers. The only other person that's still involved with it is the Newhofer family.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there's 4 children there. Margie still works there, but she's taking care of her husband, who's a little bit ill. So, she wasn't there this year. But they're a big part in helping, and because it takes a small army to do some things sometimes, and
sure,
you got to have volunteers to help you. You can't always pay everybody to come do everything for you.
Yeah.
And at times when we ran our booth at the Kumquat Festival, we had as many as 80 volunteers that would come help us do that. Of course, we did 2 days. We did 2 days of open house before we do the festival. So we run a 3-day event. So we have a lot of people. We did grove tours and packing house tours and just the general knowledge and tasting and everything we could.
Right.
So it took a lot of people to get all that set up and working and to get people to work there.
Sure.
And we were still running our plant while we were doing it, processing
Sure.
processing the kumquats. So, that's one of the things. We're still, now we're fighting funding. Some of the issues that we don't have somebody we can just, go up here and say, hey, I want $100,000 to try to create this new variety. That's not something that happens. The government's just not there for that. We have gotten some of the funding for pandemic stuff. We've gotten some of the funding for when we had the tristasia and it killed a lot of the trees, to replant trees back then. We got some reimbursement money from there.
Okay.
But basically it's just been, we're living off of our money comes in from and my father and his partner have had to put money into the business. We borrowed money this year. Was the first time we've ever really borrowed money because we just didn't want to borrow from them.
Sure.
And so we took, and with the joy that we had of having paid off vehicles, we were able to borrow against one of the vehicles, not against the land or the business.
Yes, sir.
We just borrowed against the vehicle. So worst comes to worst, we lose the vehicle.
Yeah.
But we're not going to lose it. We've already made enough money to pay that off and have some back in reserve. So,
Awesome.
But it was just enough to get us. Sometimes you need a little funding to pay your employees.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we don't get paid for 30 days a lot of times. And when we were really big, sometimes we didn't get paid for 90 days.
Really?
Yeah, because you as, and then we don't pay our growers until towards the end of the year, because we would have to have all that money for the harvest. The harvesting's the big part. Everybody says, "Oh, the grower makes the money." No, the laborer makes the money. Because they're there. Their piecework. they could back in the day when minimum wage was $7, they could make $15 an hour if they could pick 2 bushel a day. So it was easy for them to or some of them would make $20 an hour back in those days. A husband and wife team could make $1,000 weeks.
So talking about employees, so I'm at the point now in my business where I'm looking to hire employees, and you had mentioned something earlier where the minimum wage is $10 an hour, but that's what you pay the employee.
Right.
Really, it's closer to $11.50 or $12 when you add on everything else that the employer has to pay.
Yeah.
The insurance, the workers' comp, all the other stuff that you're responsible for. So when did you hire your first employee? Did you used to do everything by yourself? Was it you and in the family? And
us and the family, really. Our first, it's kind of fun. It's kind of a funny story. We were at one point, and I don't remember how many years it was. We were hiring. We had gotten to the point where we were hiring day labor. We were going to get in the day labor people.
Yep.
Which it's kind of the quality of people you get for a packing house. The profanity, the just the language, they worked good, but just sometimes. Well, we had this elderly man that worked for my wife's grandfather and worked for her dad. He come up to us, and him and his wife were working in there helping us out, and we had this day labor, and he came up, he said, look, I've got some people, and I can bring my people in here, and you give us an opportunity, and you won't have to worry. You tell me how many people you need, and I'll bring you those people. So we said, okay, we'll try it. Well, he brought us 6 people.
Yeah.
His wife, another lady, and three other guys, and himself. And it just worked great. Yeah. It worked fantastic. And it just, they've been working with us now for 15 years.
Really?
Of course, he passed away, and his wife doesn't work for us anymore, but some of the youngers are still and offspring of them. Multi-generation.
Sure.
Now it's not a glory job. It's just, packing house help is packing house help, and you rely on them. And then of course with hiring and the firing of some people, they come to work, they're drunk. They come to work, they're stoned.
Sure.
They come to work, they're they go for a break and they don't come back. And the hiring of people is one of the most difficult things to do, because it's hard to read people. I mean, even in the fire department, I had to sit on interview boards, and I was always terrible at it because I loved everybody. So you're thinking, oh, this guy. And we had this one guy, just a real quick story. We had this one guy. I mean, he was a star. He was a football player. He was a paramedic, firefighter. He had everything you could imagine. It's like, oh man, this guy, I'm ready to hire this guy. I'll take him, put him on my truck any day.
Yeah.
Well, we did a background check. 3 DUIs.
Yeah.
Played for Florida State.
Oh no, did he really? Don't say that. Don't say that.
I mean, but
yeah.
Sure. I mean, sure. You just never know.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that part of the test, you get yourself in big trouble real quick.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I mean, we find, you let the guy drive the truck, and then he goes and has a wreck.
Right.
And then you find out he didn't have a driver's license. So that's the hard part about hiring people. And
sure.
You hire them, and at one point it was very easy because we had a line, people coming in wanting to work, because the people that we had working there talked so highly of how well we treated them. We treated our employees like family. We gave them Christmas bonuses. We gave them a Christmas party, an end-of-the-year party, end-of-the-year bonuses. We helped them out financially if they needed to borrow money to get new tires or new cars. It was never, not new cars, but yeah, sometimes new cars.
Sure.
We treated them like family.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
If they needed a loan, for something, when they needed a loan to buy the property, then we'll co-sign for them. We didn't have any of those problems.
Sure.
I never was to the point of that, but I have, doled out money to guys and, well, you could take it out of my next paycheck. No. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
We're going to take it out of 3 paychecks from now because you're going to get back on your feet. This is a hand up, not a hand out.
Yes, sir. Right.
Because, I give you $60 now. You're getting $150 or you're getting $300. No, you're not. You're only getting $240 because I'm taking my $60 back. That doesn't help you.
Right.
That hurts you. So you go ahead and get your 2, and the third one now I'll take $20, and the next one I'll take $20, and the next one I'll take $20.
Yeah.
And in that way we're all clear by the end of the year, end of the season.
Yeah.
And when you treat people like that, they want to come work for you. So So we never had a problem of anybody wanting to come, and work for us. It's always been, and then there's the times when you got to tell, the person's crying and you tell them, I got to let you go, man. Yeah, it ain't working out. It's not working out.
Yeah.
You're not who I thought you were.
Right.
You don't have the capability of doing it.
Right.
I don't want you to go out here and take a break and disappear for, an hour or 45 minutes. Where have you been?
Right.
What are you doing?
Sure.
Those are the hard parts, and labor is expensive. It in the fire department is 51% of our budget. So, when you look at 51%, that's but that's also when you're giving people retirement and all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Vacation time, sick time. Insurance and I'd love to help my people get health insurance for year round, but they only work for me for 5 months. How can I do that? Right now they're only working for me about 3 or 4 weeks.
Sure.
As full weeks. So
sure.
You can't do something like that, but business is a kind of a two-faced plate sometimes, or a two-sided plate. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly on the one, but then you got sport holding it all up.
Yes, sir.
Because without the good base, you don't, a lot of things just can't get going. I've had failures. I went into the business of harvesting oranges before the collapse of that. Mm-hmm. And we were spending more money on maintenance and repairs and labor than we were making.
Wow.
It just didn't turn out to work out.
Yeah.
We had a little packing house that we did oranges in. And we waxed them, and then I delivered them to. Now I made some money out of that. That was a cash deal. That one was pretty good.
Okay.
But wore my truck out. Wore 2 trucks out. Business made a little bit of money. Didn't make a lot of money, but they sold their oranges, and they got better than if they sold them to a big packing house that basically paid them a nickel a box. I paid them $5 a box for them, so they did okay out of all that.
I'd say so.
But it not everything worked that I've ever touched. A lot of things didn't. A lot of trial and errors. This works, this don't. This year I made some fresh squeezed orange juice, thinking, shoot, people are going to go crazy for that. I hardly sold any of it, And, I put oranges up there for sale. People always asking, well, we did okay. We sold got some very fresh early strawberries when we had our open house. Some delicious, sweet, wonderful, some of the finest Plant City strawberries that you could find.
Okay.
Hardly sold them. We got 10 flats. We sold 6 of them in the time that we were there.
Yeah.
Just not everything works all the time.
Yeah.
But you have to do trial and error. If we stayed the same, we would be where the other 3 kumquat businesses are.
Yes,
out
sir.
of business.
Yes, sir.
You know, you have to be flexible. You have to adjust. And that's one thing, if I can't say my father's taught me anything else, and my father is my mentor in the kumquat business. But if I haven't learned anything else from him, I've learned that you have to be like the willow. You have to bend. You can't be like the pine.
Yeah.
Because if you do, if this is the way we've done it, this is the way we're always going to do it,
yep,
then you're going to be out of business.
Be willing to pivot. Yeah.
You got to be able to
chances.
You got to be able to take chances, and
yep,
and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, how did you guys do any advertising? Did in the beginning? Did you guys
the beginning we did some advertising. We one of our Bibles, one of the greatest things there is in the produce industry, because see, we were considered produce, and it was called the Red Book and the Blue Book. And the Red Book and Blue Book are, if you were a broker and you were looking for a fruit vegetable commodity of some sort, you went down, you picked up your Red Book, and the Red Book is a red book.
Okay, yeah.
And the Blue Book is a blue book.
Okay.
But you picked it up, you flipped to the thing, you looked up, say you wanted star fruit, or you wanted kumquats, and you wanted some lychee, or you wanted some tangerines. You flipped that, go in that book, and you looked up what you wanted. It'd tell you the names of the brokers, and then you know the states they were in, and you went into the states and you found it. You found what you were looking for. That was one of the best means of advertising that we did.
Okay.
Then when we got into the Kumquat Festival, we did advertising there. We did local advertising in the local paper, and local paper's gone.
Now, when you did the advertising, how did you come up with the ad? Like, what was in the ad? What did you?
They were normally just trying to get them to come to the packing house or
Gotcha.
come to the festival.
Gotcha. Okay.
They were, and still today, that's kind of what we promote.
Gotcha.
Our other type of advertising that we did was we did shows. I mean, we went to different shows and introduced people to kumquats.
Sure.
Those were in the post the 90s years, after we were trying to rejuvenate. We also took little tiny pieces of paper and we put recipes on them, and we used to fold them in half and drop them in the cup that we had.
Okay.
And so when the people got them at the store,
yep,
they could see that there was recipe in there. They could open them up and see what to do with them.
That's genius. Yeah, yeah.
Then we went to, like I said, we did it. It's now on the label. You open the label up, it's on the inside.
Yep.
Kind of like the Cool Whip.
Okay.
The Cool Whip. They've always got the recipe on the back side of that.
Yeah.
Not that we stole their idea, not that they stole ours, but it was just, crossing paths. That's how we did that. I mean, we used to take, and we had the little Katie's pamphlet. It's a little tiny, it was a trifold pamphlet. It's white, multicolored inks. We used to take those, and when we put them in the boxes, we would stuff some of those on top of the box. So when it got to the produce stand, they'd pull those out and set them out, and then people would know how to get. And then, of course, the internet came along, and we were early to jump on the internet. We had one big screw up on there. We, instead of getting the kumquat.com when it first came out, we missed that and had some gigantic, crazy, I forget what it was. It was bizarre how long it was, the name of it. But we finally ended up being able to get kumquatgrowers.com.
Okay.
And by doing that, because the word kumquat back in the day was hit 30,000 times a day. People trying to find out or a month, excuse me, not a day. Okay. 30,000 times
still a lot.
month. Yes. And there was a German band that was called the Kumquats. And then there was also it could have been the Google of Googles if Kumquat could have stayed as a search engine, because that's where the kumquat.com originally was.
It was a search engine?
Was like a search engine.
I didn't know that.
I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But research that, because you could prove me wrong. So we have to cut that section out. But it was used as a something like that. Of course, I'm not real tech, so I'm not.
Sure.
I wish I was. I really could use a lot of. I mean, we struggle, and I remember in 1976.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm the 50s and 60s. I grew up in the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, they told us computers were coming, but we didn't know what they were going to look like.
Sure.
I can remember when they built in 1974 when they built the Pasco Hernando Community College. Mm-hmm. They had a room that was probably 20 by 20, maybe 20 by 15. Mm-hmm. And that's where the computer was.
Right, the whole room was
the room was
main
the computer.
Yeah.
They did the cards.
Yep.
The punch cards.
Yep.
I mean, DOS.
Yep.
I mean, those are the. And I was the little nerdy guy that walked around with the pencil holder in there and the pens. I was smart. I'm not. I'm lazy, but I'm smart.
Sure.
And
I wouldn't call you lazy at all.
No, well, I could be considered lazy about some things, but I could have been a computer nerd. I could have been a computer nerd. I mean, my brother is very high tech, but he's high tech in developmental, whatever they call it, programming and stuff.
Sure.
I should have paid closer attention. I mean, I took a typing class because that boat accident kept me from doing anything because I had to protect my head because my head had been kind of bounced around, had a little depression. So I took typing. I knew how to type. Yeah. But I let all that kind of disappear. Had I stayed in that, I mean, who knows where I could have been. Yeah. But it wasn't God's plan. So I'm not, sir. Correct. I mean, I can wish and dream, and I could have been, I tell you a funny story. I was in Guatemala, and this guy came up. We were at a wine and cheese party with one of the ambassadors to whatever Canada, whatever country it was. We were at their house for a wine and cheese party. And this guy comes, hey, Greg, come here. It was the second couple times I think, he says, come here. He said, yeah. He said, I want to show you something. He said, look, these guys are in their garage, and they're building this computer programming, this computer. And he says, when you get back to the States, you got $500. You can. Oh yeah. And I said, yeah, I got $500. I was newlywed. We were both working, and $500 wasn't that much money. He said, when you get back, you invest in this company. I'm like, oh, okay. And he flipped it over, I was like, oh, okay. We'll see. He said, IBM, this is going to take the thing of all that. That's why I got back to the United States and went back to life and forgot all about this until Forrest Gump.
Okay.
When he said, yeah, he invested in this vegetable business, and he flipped that piece of paper over with the thing.
Apple.
I said, oh, shit.
Yeah.
$500 at 50 cents a share.
Yeah.
They were working in their garage.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yep.
But me and my wife would have had a hell of a settlement at that point, to get rid of all that money. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be. But I mean, it's just funny things in life. Yeah. I've had an interesting life. It's I was a fireman back then when that all occurred. That was before I ended up leaving there and going back to construction. But construction I was making, back in construction, I'm making $19,000 a year, back in the 80s, which was pretty decent for Florida wages. And when I started as a fireman, a starting fireman started at $12,000. So, my mentor said, can you really afford to do this? I said, yeah, because I can make $9,000 working construction on my 2 days off. Yeah. A year. Sure. I can double that, I mean, so, that was my big thing there. So
are you guys still advertising today, or is it just word of mouth
when we collapsed, our advertising pretty well much, other than I go on Google and go on Facebook and do those little where they put those little blurps out for $5 a day or whatever it is, and that has been very successful.
Sure, I use them too. Yeah.
I mean, I started last year, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure, here I'm Facebook. These today kids are way beyond me. But I'm, trying to learn how to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to hashtag and do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
We have a girl over in Dade City that oh gosh, shame on me, I can't remember her name, but she's got the shortbread place.
Okay.
And she's doing very well. She's a veteran. She's a female. She's got her own business. She's doing very well, but she's also we're kind of related. We're not really related, but we're kind of.
Yeah.
Her. No, remember you're being recorded. So her half sister was one of my best friends in high school.
Okay.
So
really,
she's in
small world.
She's married to one of my cousins. So we have a tie, but we're not really related.
Not blood, but close enough. Yeah.
She has taught me a lot about the hashtag and how it promotes things.
Absolutely.
And then of course this thing with Pasco County declaring us as the county pie, and now that's being thrown out there through the tourism board, and that's going to really help a whole lot with. It's helped a whole lot with Kumquat Pie sales out of our packing house and out of the local places that I keep them, other than us.
Sure.
But we've never really had to advertise because we've never really been in the retail business as our primary income.
You guys wholesale?
Wholesale is our big deal.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I mean, our wholesale. You sell 500 bushel. And you put that, that's 10. That could be 10, or 500 bushel could be $50,000 worth of product that you're selling. So that's our money.
Sure.
I mean, now that's now. Back then we didn't because we wholesaled so much. We didn't charge as much. So at our current things, eventually I'll get to where I can afford $15 an hour. But I have to do some pricing increases. I couldn't do it.
Sure.
I couldn't do it at the. I don't know.
It's no worries. It's not a big deal at all. Don't even worry about it.
I don't. Yeah, but it'll ring 15 times. I don't know why it's ringing. I turned the ringer off and it's still ringing.
Not a big deal.
It's a new phone. I'm not high tech, and it's got me too.
It's not a big deal. You're fine.
But we really have never had to really advertise. Now, don't get me wrong. It cost us $1,000 a year to be in the blue book and $1,000 a year to be in the red book. So we did pay to do that, and that was just to be in it. And if you they put out these little flyers, that you'd send out, and it may say kumquats are in season, and then have our little Kumquat Growers thing there, and we'd have to pay for that.
Right.
We were also members of FFVA, Florida Vegetable and Fruit Association.
Okay.
And I was a member of their board for 5 years. And that was very interesting because that was helping the produce industry. And we met we didn't meet every month. I forget what it was, but I think we met 4 times a year.
Okay.
And that was interesting thing to be, but that cost us money to be involved in.
Sure.
Fresh from Florida. We
Sure.
were members of that. We've been members of Fresh from Florida since 1991, when the inception of Fresh from Florida. Very big supporters of them. The citrus industry got involved in that after their citrus and money disappeared, so they're now Fresh from Florida stuff and the cattlemen and everything else. But we were involved in it with the produce years and years ago. And that was kind of the extent of our advertising.
Gotcha. Okay.
We're having to try to build our sales up in the gift shop to help support, which it has. Thank God we've been able to do a lot of this stuff because it has helped us bring some financial money in to help us. But we had to go to 3 days a week, being open 3 days a week, because we couldn't afford the wages.
Sure.
To have somebody sit there for 10 hours and 8 hours a day, 6 days is 48 hours.
Right.
And it's $480 that you have to make.
Right.
To break even.
Right.
So for
right.
one person.
Right.
Not
right.
counting Social Security and all the other things
Sure.
that you got to pay.
Sure.
workers' comp, unemployment,
Sure,
all those things, and you know it's the hardest part of any business, and you know, I mean, it's like I'm dipping a little bit with cattle. That was one of the things. I took some money when I retired. I bought some cows, and of course, I kind of subleased some land. I leased some land from my father-in-law. I don't have to pay him a lease, thank God. But by the time you pay fertilizer, and then you got to pay a hay bill through the year, and you gotta vaccinate them and feed them and do all this stuff.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of, is it really worth it? You got to find a point where, and I'm not looking to make millions of dollars on it. I was just looking to make, you know, some, and I'm finding out that unless you go a little bit bigger, you can't make any money at a lot of things. And you know, and that was where we always had the advantage, because we were so big that, you know, I mean, if we could have turned that into a year-round business and bought kumquats from California and bought kumquats from Chile, which we kind of helped set that deal up, and then got kind of shafted out of it, because that's what happens in produce industry. It used to be, if the produce industry used to be awesome, because if we did business together, we were friends, and Joe Blow come up and tried to cut me out, you wouldn't let him cut me out.
Gotcha.
That all went away as time, as you know, different people got involved in it, different, you know, different things, and times changed, and that disappeared. Your loyalty, you know, we still today, I may drive to St. Ann Lumber Company to buy stuff there, or Ace Hardware in Dade City to buy from a local guy there, or Dade City Hardware when it used to be open, because it was the loyalty of, it costs me more money, but that money's local.
Yeah, staying right here.
That money's not paying some guy, some CEO making $2.3 million living in Canada, you know, or somewhere else. You know? So you have to add loyalty, and a lot of the loyalty in all the produce industry and the cattle industry and a lot of the stuff is just gone. Yeah, you know, you don't have the dedication of people.
Sure.
And it's hard, you know. I mean, we buy T-shirts. I could go online and order T-shirts for X amount of dollars. We get a local person to print our T-shirts up for us. Yeah, we keep the money. That's what I talk about, the local. You know, I get stickers made out of a company in Brooksville. I give all my banners and all that stuff out of a company in Dade City. Because you got to keep it local.
Sure. Absolutely.
You got to support your family. You got to support your community.
Yeah. So what would you then say is going to be the future, if you were a betting man? What's the future of the kumquat industry?
The future of the kumquat industry, with God willing and the creek don't rise too high, but hopefully we'll get back on our feet and get back there. I get very discouraged, lately, but I look out there to yesterday and today, and it's gotten warm weather. The trees are starting to sprout back out and get back green, and say, hey, I just was messing with you. I'm messing with you. You know, shame on you for being sick on me last year. I got sick because you were sick. You know, pray a lot. Always have prayed a lot. You know, how do you win in farming? You become a very good believer in God, because God can make it or break it for you. Yeah. You know, it's you know, called farming because gambling was taken. You know, we have all kind. You like that one, didn't you?
I like that.
That one gets everybody. And my other favorite saying is, it's nice to be seen and not viewed. Yeah. That was after COVID. That one become one of my favorite things. You know, but I want to see it succeed. I want to be able to give it to my grandchildren. My kids have no interest in it. You know, they're one of them's a kind of she works for a doctor's office. The other one is my other daughter is in billing for Moffett, and my son's a fireman, and my other son's a cowboy. And they, and that's great. I'm glad they have those industries, and they saw how I worked at it. They saw the dedication that I have. They don't want to be buried by that. I mean, when we'd go on vacations, a lot of times we were doing business while we were on vacation. We were promoting our product somewhere, or we were up in Georgia getting, hauling puree up there to take to our jelly people to make marmalades and stuff,
Sure.
So it wasn't, we had 2 barbecue sauces too.
Holy cow.
See,
yeah.
The wheels turn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope I can get the trees to grow. By the grace of God, I can get them to grow. If I can get them to grow and we can find the right, which we think we have the right method of how to grow them now, because we have been in rebuilding years. We don't know the solution 100%, but we got at least a 70% chance now of we know what we have to do, and we have to go forward.
Now, can you import trees from, you say they're in Georgia and California? Can you buy full-grown trees and just
no,
you can't? Doesn't work like that.
You have to start off with a young tree and bring it up.
Okay.
Now, one successful thing that we did, instead of buying the little itty bitty trees, we bought the bigger trees, and we had good success with that. So we skipped a year.
Sure.
So we bought, of course, the trees cost us twice what they were.
Sure.
But we made
skip
it.
The year,
You skip that year.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a kumquat and any other citrus. A kumquat will give you fruit when that tree is less than a year old. Nothing else does that. I mean, and by the time it's 2 years old, it's giving you enough kumquats to where you can't eat them off the tree. More than you can eat in a normal setting. I mean, it gives you quite a bit. So, we just have to get the right, and give the right dedication and spend the right amount of money to try to keep our. I've spent a lot of money learning.
Sure.
Now I've got to get it trimmed and fat and get this, to where it works, so we can get the trees up and then get the product in, get the employees back in the field,
right,
and get back and get this thing making some money again.
As I've been working in business, I've been doing it now for about a year. I left corporate America, and I'm on my own now, and there's a completely different type of stress that you deal with when you're a business owner and you're out here, you're bootstrapping stuff, you're doing it by yourself. You're figuring everything out, the taxes, the CPA stuff, the advertising, all of it. So how do you deal with the thoughts of self-doubt and disbelief, and what's your trick for dealing with the stress of all of this stuff?
I don't know.
And you've been doing it for 30 years.
You can only deal with what you get, and you have to, like I said, not everything works.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go open that door and walk through there.
Yep.
And if you step and there's no floor and you fall flat on your face, well, you pick yourself up, you come back in, you close the door, and you go open another door.
Yeah.
How you deal with all I'm blessed that we have an accountant a girl that works for us, and she does all our bookkeeping and stuff. And I have a brother that has a program that is very easy to do all that stuff. Payroll's one of the hardest, biggest nightmares there are, and I feel sorry for her when she has to do it. But it's these companies that do it for you. It's almost worth. My brothers have construction companies, and one of them does paving, the other does land clearing and dirt hauling and stuff, and they pay a provider to do that for them, and that's well worth it. But it costs you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's profit.
Yeah, right.
That's your profit.
Right.
And, do you want to do that, or do you want the stress of it? I can remember watching my uncle when there was the two of them. The one would go home and he would go and work on bids and go meet people. The other one went home and worked on bids and paid bills and did all that stuff. They didn't work from 8 to 4:30. They worked from 8 till they got done.
Sure.
When I was a fireman, when I was a fireman and a chief, even when I was a lieutenant, if I needed to work from 8 to 11:30. That's what I did.
Yep.
If I needed to work from 8 to 4, that's what I did.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, that's the drive that you have to have, and that's the hardest part about not being corporate.
Did you ever have the thoughts of self-doubt creep in that, like, oh my God, I just can't do that? Like, did that ever, in the early days, whenever you were first getting started, was it ever just so overwhelming? Because you've done so much. Was it?
I think it just was. It was by make it or break it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You know, my poor wife had to sit at home and figure out how to live off of battalion chief salary for Pasco County, which was not Tampa, which was not Hillsborough County,
yes, sir,
or Orange County or anything like that. Yes, was it decent amount of money? Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, you know, was it triple digit? No, it never. It was the last year of my career, but you know, those were the hard times. That was the hard stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, missing the first step, missing the, you know, all that stuff in the life of my kids. Now I'm enjoying the hell out of my grandkids. You know, yes, I'm making that up. And, you know, that's why I think family businesses skip generations, because the kids watch the father, the parent, work. And my wife has been a big help too. She's very visionary. She come into play. My youngest son is 23 years old. So when he went to school, however many years ago that goes back, he would have been 15 years ago or 17 years ago. She started working in the business with me, and she had a lot of good ideas and good things. And yeah, we did things that we went out and, I mean, you know, the Moultrie thing. We went up there. Friends talked us into going up there. First year, we turned almost $1,200. You know, wow, we did good, you know. The next year we went up there, we did less. The next year we did less. And I'm like, why is this? Because you told everybody to go plant a tree. And now their trees are making kumquats, and they're making their own marmalades and jellies, and they're not needing to buy them from you. You know? Yeah. I mean, you know, and we did that at the Kumquat Festival. We sold trees. Well, you know, I want my. You sell trees? Yeah, we sell trees. Stupidest mistake we ever made in our life. You talking about because guess what? They planted that tree out there, and back then you planted that tree, it grew, and now you not only have enough for you, you have enough for my neighbor, and his neighbor, and his neighbor, and his neighbor. Well, yeah. Those fine people used to come to my pine house and buy kumquats.
Yeah.
You know, thank God 2010 killed all those trees. You know, now they say, you want a tree? I want a tree. I said, I don't sell you a tree.
I don't sell them.
No. Yeah. I mean, I turned to them, and one of the funniest things, or the thing I like to say to them, now you talking about hitting your head. Do you go into the grocery store and say, hey, are you selling strawberry plants?
Right.
Hey, are you selling bean plants?
No, you don't. Yeah.
So why the heck you want to grow a kumquat tree?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to eat them all.
Right.
You're not going to, no way are you going to be, I mean, when that tree gets to produce 8 bushels, 8,000 kumquats, are you going to eat 8,000 kumquats? Are you going to eat 8,000 kumquats worth of marmalade?
Right.
400 pounds of fruit?
Right.
Are you going to make and eat all that marmalade? No.
Yeah, not a chance.
No.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are failures like that we did.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we made money, and we made instant money when we sold those trees, because we were buying for nickels and selling them for dollars. Mm-hmm. You know, we were buying them for, I think, $3 and selling them for $8. You know, clearing $5. Hey, it was good.
Yeah.
Until reality stuck
come
in.
back and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you're like, wait a minute, something's wrong. What's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't plant enough of them to where I could say now, oh, hey, I need to come pick your kumquat tree. You know, no. We never made that part of it. So, you know, there were things that, you know, we did that worked and didn't work, and, you know, was there. Luckily, it was Dad's business, and I got to sometimes make decisions, and it didn't hurt my pocket any, you know, because I still got paid the same.
Yeah.
But in your own business, own thing of doing things, yeah, you know. But America wasn't built on everything works.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, we picked cotton by hand at first. We picked tomatoes by hand. We picked vegetables, all kinds of stuff by hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
tobacco, you know, apples, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they used to hand wash. You ever tried to hand wash an orange? It takes a long time to hand wash an orange. But you can drop it in a machine and come out the other end looking beautiful.
Yeah.
Waxed and finished and polished and ready to go.
Yeah.
So, you know, but somebody had to come up with that idea.
Sure.
You know, all our machinery there is custom made. It was that I had a lot to do with that. That was one of the things that machinery was my baby. You know, we had a tub not much bigger than these tables. It was about 2 foot deep. And it had 2 handles on it.
Mm-hmm.
We dumped the bushels of kumquats in there. We dipped them in a thing of water, and then we picked them up and we dumped them on an elevator. They went up the elevator and they dumped onto a table. We could do 250 bushel a day. That was a 10-hour day. That was pushing it. And you had at least 6 guys that worked those tubs, and they worked hard through that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I said, Dad, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And so I just happened to have a friend that I called. His name was Scott. And we went and I sat down and talked to him, and he said, yeah, I can build you a machine. Well, that never panned out. So I ended up talking to another friend, and that never panned out. And we finally went to a company, and this guy said, yeah, I can build you the machine. What you're talking about. And so we built the machinery that we have in our packing house today. And what had happened was when we were doing the brine solution, putting the kumquats up and storing them, we found out we could extend our season by sorting the sizes out, because the big kumquats got soft and the little kumquats got soft. But the kumquats, what I'll call the money kumquat,
Mm-hmm.
was always good and firm. So we could extend our season by almost a whole month by sizing these kumquats.
Okay.
When we sized them to put them into brine, if we kept the middle kumquats, we could wholesale them.
Gotcha.
Whereas the other kumquats we could put in brine. When they ground them up, they didn't care what
Right.
size they were.
Right.
So, you know, just by luck, when we did that, then we were running 400 bushel in a 9-hour day. So, you know, I mean, when we mechanized, and we were running with only about, I think we had a total of about 7 people that it takes to run that line.
Wow.
Geez, my nitty, people. Geez, my nitty, everybody's calling me. I don't know, what time is it? I guess about 6 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
2 hours we've been talking.
Yeah, that's all. Not too long.
Holy mackerel. I told you, I can talk now.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah, we're good. No worries at all. I'm in no rush if you're in no rush.
I'm in no rush. Just let me, can we stop for a second?
Yeah, please.
Find out what's
Please
going
do. Go for it. All right. Well, we'll step back into it here, and we'll just start winding down, I guess.
Well, we don't have to wind down. I'm ready. I told you I could talk for hours.
Yeah. I've got some.
You got some questions.
Some sort of more fun questions. So they're not so much
right.
necessarily about the business and your background so much, but it's just more of well, you'll see. So there's and this isn't necessarily my specific question,
Right.
but I really like this question because there's a word, the word success, and that means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So I'm just curious, when you think of the word success, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
To be successful is to sell all your product, have a good time, and enjoy the rewards that come after it.
Sure.
You know, of meeting that goal. There've been a lot of times we haven't. A lot of times we left fruit on the trees that we wish we would have been able to get rid of. And that was always my father's thing is, well, we still leave fruit on the trees. Well, we didn't, towards the end, we didn't leave fruit on the trees. We picked everything. So success is, you know, being able to complete the task in the fire department is to put the fire out, make sure everybody went home, you know. In family life, it's keep everybody healthy and safe and, you know, protected from all the evil things out there.
Right.
So I guess, it has multiple different meanings for me.
Sure.
And in my life.
So when you think of the word successful, who comes to mind?
Well, a lot of people. A lot of the guys I worked with my chiefs, some of my chiefs were very successful. I have a couple brothers that are successful in what they've done. My two uncles that were in construction, they were very successful. My father did very well. He was very successful. I mean, he's 92 years old. How can you not be successful if you live to be 92?
Yes, sir.
So, when you see people see that, that's where I think that comes in.
Gotcha. Love it. What is one of the most important pieces of advice you've ever received or have ever given to somebody? Or one of both? One of both,
huh?
And we could be talking years ago. It doesn't have to be like yesterday.
I'm just trying to think of. I mean, there's been so much advice that's been given me.
Yeah.
I think back to educational classes where, hard work's always one of the, you always want to, we worked hard. When we were kids, we had to get up and go to work on Saturday morning. We had to go, out in the grove. We had to go out in the pasture. We had to fix fence.
Yeah.
Then we could play.
Yeah.
We had property on a lake, so we spent during the summers we were at the lakes water skiing all the time. So, just advice. I mean, I don't know that I ever really leaned on anybody and had any real advice given to me. I mean, I was probably given a lot of advice about, don't let the money burn a hole in your pocket, which money always burned a hole in my pocket.
Yeah, me too.
And I was always free. I was always free to help and free to give,
Yeah.
It was easy. It's easy to give somebody else's money, I mean,
yeah.
And I guess that might be one of those, it's easy to be successful when, money, I tell you, I know what it is now. Money makes money. If you have money, you can make money. If you never have the money, you never can make it. So
yeah,
that is probably the best advice that was ever given to me. And when we were successful in the kumquat business, not that we're not successful even today, because if we sell what we've got, we've sold more than we've been successful. When we were able to, and we had the money, we could make money with that money. And that was why we were successful and able to get through this real lean time.
Sure. Gotcha. Okay. So what about any daily routines? Do you have a structure to your day? Do you do any types of yoga, meditation, exercising? How do you calm your mind? Do you have any daily routines that you do?
I have, I guess, a magic switch that just switches on and switches off.
Okay.
I go from wide ass open to dead still.
Okay.
When I get home in the evening, I sit in my couch in my easy chair and relax.
Yeah.
Turn the TV on.
Yeah.
One of the things I like most now, and it's kind of goofy since, like I said, after my PTSD, that I kind of went through, which wasn't a lot. I mean, I used to kind of harass people about saying, this really existed, and it does really exist, and I do.
Sure,
but
sure.
I was brought up in hard knocks, the school of hard knocks. You didn't take stuff, but oh gosh, what's the name of the Hallmark Channel? Turn that on when you get home and watch it. Watch the love stories. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to say now to my grandson is, they're spreading COVID. They just keep kissing. All these people just keep kissing. They're spreading COVID. They need to stop. Yeah. But it's watching, and when I was at the firehouse, I did some of that stuff too. I mean, I'd turn on the TV and watch Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Because you got to have a relief. I just have a magic
Yes.
switch that I can just turn on and off. I mean, because like I said, I went from being in charge of a fire department to being in charge of a kumquat business, to being a father, to being in charge of the fire department. I mean, I went back and forth, and I guess I have the magic switch that I can just switch on and off, or it doesn't. I have no.
It's a gift.
I don't have a go and meditate. I can't think about something that long.
Yeah, gotcha.
I've got some of the best ideas, and I don't know if this ever happened to you. You're laying there sound asleep, and my father and I both experienced this, and you wake up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
The aha moment, yeah.
You know what? We could do this, this, and this,
and
this is going to make this better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that works. If you have that ability, I think that's probably the magic trick. Yeah. And sometimes who is telling you that? Who is giving you that advice?
Sure.
I mean, my mother gave me a lot of advice. Did I listen to all of it? No, but listen to all of it. Did I pay attention to all of it?
Yeah.
Most of it. But she was a hard worker. My dad was is a hard worker. Still is still. So I just learned it from them. I mean, my kids are hard workers. They dedicate themselves to their job. They don't, go slouch around, call out sick just because they want to go do something else. They go to work. They go to work and they do their job to the best of their ability. Mm-hmm. Their reward is they get a paycheck.
Yeah. Who do you look to for inspiration? Is there your father maybe? Is there somebody, the chief Morgan? Is there somebody that you look to for inspiration that you draw on, or is it?
I think
really?
Really I don't know that. Like I said, it just I walk in the door and
you
I put
flip
this
the switch
hat
on,
and this is who I am. I get up and I put the boot. The soldier puts his boots on, and he's a soldier.
Yes, sir.
He takes his boots off. He walks off the base and he's a civilian.
Yes, sir.
He goes back, puts his boots on, he's a soldier.
Yeah.
The gun goes bang, now he's a program killer.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's kind of that militaristic life may have taught me that.
Sure.
And being involved in it at 17 years old maybe that's what programmed me to that. I mean, my father was in the military. We didn't travel, but he was gone 1 weekend a month, and 2 weeks out of every year he went to summer camp. So maybe that had something to do with me. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's
any good books you've read that have sort of framed some things for you?
I'm not a big book reader.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm too busy to be sitting around reading books.
Yeah, I hear you. I
have a little bit of dyslexia. I mean, I have to read something a couple of times to get it to burn in there. You know? I mean, once I got it, I got it.
I listen to books on tape a lot more than anything.
Well, I wish I would have done that. You know. Now my children are big book. 2 of them are big book readers. 2 of them are like me. They read one sentence, and how many times you got to read it before it sinks in. I said, part of that laziness comes from educational wise.
Yeah.
I was smart. I was way up in my class when I realized, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be with the people I wanted to be with. I didn't want to be with the book smart people.
Yeah.
Although I attended all the same classes they did because I was, in that level of brightness, but I preferred to be hanging out with the cowboys and the country boys and stuff to that instead of the intellectual crowd.
Sure.
Although I carried my
pocket protector. Yep. All right. Well, I mean, are there any topics, any questions about you specifically, about kumquats that we haven't covered, kumquat products, anything at all you'd like to touch on?
I don't know. We've talked about so much.
Yeah, we have. And
it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Anything else you'd like to discuss?
I guess one of the things that I found out that I didn't know, I mean, when I go and talk, I don't, most people say, if you see me as me and you hang around me and then, like the guys at the firehouse stuff, and then they'd see me doing a program or something, I was 2 different people, I love to talk. I've always had the gift of gab. I love being a salesman. When I used to go out, and that was another thing. I used to go out and sell kumquats to those fruit stands I was talking about. Mm-hmm. That was my biggest pitch in sales. That's how I learned to do sales. Because if you could sell a kumquat, you could sell anything.
Yeah.
If I can get you to try a kumquat, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have you in a new car by the time you leave.
Yeah.
But I'm not that type of salesman. I could never do the pyramid things because I didn't believe in them.
Sure.
I guess believing is what it is. I guess I have maybe it's the mystical powers of the kumquat that give me the ability to do what I do.
Yeah.
And give my father and the successful Mr. Durden. There was a couple that were in the business long before we were, and they had a very prosperous business. They when you go Lake Olive Road where the cabinet shop is there on Lake Olive Road on the left, that used to be their processing plant they processed the late bloom, the kumquats they put in the sulfur dioxide. Okay. And they had a hell of a business doing that.
Really?
They were very successful in that. So, it's not something, and then the Petters had a business, and but they were leaf business. They were in it basically November, December, and then in January they didn't do anymore at that point. So maybe it has something to do with that crazy kumquat. Maybe that's what turned me into who I am and what I do. And
I said it before, but whenever you talk about kumquats, your face definitely lights up for sure. It does. 100%.
It's because I believe in it.
Sir.
And like I said, there's no bad in a kumquat. Other than that face you may make when you first bite into it, but it's not like the fire service where there's bad and trauma and drama and war is hell and the stuff to that, and life is terrible, and people are pain in the keister sometimes, but this poor little old fruit just comes out there and just says, hey man, I'm a sweet tart, come give me a bite, come try me, and it's been fun. It's, and when it quits being fun, I guess I've gotten discouraged sometimes. This season was very tough to walk out and look to the north and look at those poor trees that just wilting up and looked like they were all going to die. But the last few days, the heat's been on and the fertilizer's there, and the everything's just starting to kind of boil and bubble and looking better. So
That's fantastic.
We're hoping that they'll grow like heck. Now, if they grow now, they're going to put a late crop on, because that's another weird thing about them. They don't like oranges will put fruit on new growth. Kumquats, it takes a year to get the fruit to really come on the new growth. But if they grow and flush now, it'll be the August, September bloom, so we'll get some fruit after Christmas next year. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Awesome. Well, Greg, how can people find you? How can people reach you? We've talked about your website a few times. I've given your address. I know you're on Facebook. I read some of your Facebook stuff. Are you guys on TikTok as well? Plug all your places. How can people find you?
We had a girl go put us on TikTok. Those are the things that I want to learn, that I need to know how to do. Those are, electronics is what gets you out there. You can you can do something silly on TikTok and
go
viral and have padded pockets, and
the whole world talking about kumquats all of a sudden.
Yes. I don't need them all to talk about kumquats right now.
Yeah, right.
One of the things that I do have a big air brake that I like to push on every now and then is I'm still growing, and when I get back to where I have enough to supply everybody, then and I may fall into something like that. Maybe there's some way that all of a sudden a bunch of kumquats may appear here. Maybe be able to get some out of Chile, where I can get my surplus up to where I can. Yes, they won't all be fresh from Florida, but kumquats from Chile are pretty safe because most of that is run by it's based on American standard.
Okay.
You know, they're not using chemicals that we don't accept because
Gotcha.
they don't have the bugs and disease. They're kind of like California, you know. They have a drier climate down there.
Okay.
So if we could get a large surplus of them, get my stock up where, you know, I can get back into getting the breweries going with it, getting everybody that, I mean, you know, one of the hardest things is the 2 weeks before the festival is when they're coming in there and they're wanting puree and they're wanting kumquats and they're wanting, because they're making marmalades. You know, it's not just Kumquat Growers making marmalade selling at the festival. It's lots of well, they're not all locals, but lots of statewide even people. They come one of them comes out of Orlando, one of them comes out of St. Pete, one out of Tampa, one out of Sarasota, and they all come, and one out of up near Ocala, one over here in Brooksville. They make their stuff, you know, and then they sell it at festivals and stuff as they go through the year, you know.
Gotcha.
And they come and they want kumquat or kumquat puree, and you know, sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. You know, I mean, this year we were very, very stingy with it, and last year we were extremely stingy with it. But you know, I don't mind them doing that because kumquat, I can't control the world about kumquats. I just can help it be a neat and interesting thing. You know, introduce it. I like introducing people to kumquats. And,
sure.
And the as far as the getting in the, you know, I've had some probably funny TikTok stories that probably would go viral.
Sure.
You know, but you know, we one of the things, if you look at it, just when you get a time, we did a remember the ice bucket challenge?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, there's a kumquat challenge.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we did it. We put buckets of ice. We put over 400 pounds of ice in that big tub.
Uh-huh.
And then the four of us did different things in there.
Uh-huh.
For the ice bucket challenge or the ice challenge.
That's just begging to be on TikTok,
and
Greg.
that was on YouTube. It's in YouTube.
Is it?
I found it recently, so it's able to be found, and just do Gude, I think, in Kumquat and ice challenge. And anyway, we did it as firemen, and it's pretty hilarious. It's
awesome.
It's funny. It probably would make it, but it's pretty long. It's all, you know, it'd have to be shortened to get into a TikTok. But, you know, there's fun things, you know. I mean, I don't have enough knowledge of the technology of this to get, you know.
Sure.
I need somebody to just come be my friend and help me, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready for too much of it because too many people, you know, then you get them wanting to look for kumquats and they can't find them, and then they get mad at you.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, we've got to get where we've got the kumquats, we've got we got the beer in the coolers, we got the wine in the rack, the cider ready to go.
Get them back, and I'll come show you how to do TikTok. It's really easy. I'll show you how to do it. It's not that hard.
Really,
I'll show you.
Oh,
so plug what's your website again? Plug your website.
My website is kumquatgrowers.com. KUMQUATGROWERS.com.
Love it. And you're on Facebook as well. Is it Kumquat Growers on Facebook too?
Kumquat Growers on Facebook.
Okay.
If you want a quick response, don't call us.
Okay.
we also are tapped into Kumquat Pie. I don't think it's still. I think we still have a Facebook page on that, and I think the .com is still active in there. and then we do hashtag Kumquat Growers, hashtag Kumquat, hashtag Kumquat Pie.
Yeah.
We're learning on those
love
now.
It. I love
now
it.
I don't know about where else we need to go, but we definitely need all the help, and
sure.
If you've never had a kumquat, you need to have a kumquat.
I've never actually had one.
Oh my gosh, I was going to bring one to you.
It's okay.
I was going to bring one to you, and then I was going to. Now, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do a thing. You'll have to get some kumquats.
Yeah.
And you'll have to video yourself trying a kumquat.
Yeah.
And you have to
go on TikTok.
You have to. Yes, it will. It will. And get a bag of kumquats and go stand somewhere and have people try them and video them.
Yeah.
Because that's what they used to do. They used to do that. The TVs and the newspapers used to do that to get the people to see if they can. We used to have a beauty pageant tacked into the Kumquat Festival.
Really?
Yes. And one of the girls went and competed. One of the girls that won went and competed in the Florida, Miss Florida.
Wow.
And she didn't win, but but the lady that took care of that was she got sick, and it's a lot of work running pageants. It's a lot of work. But we I run into it's funny. We were at a fundraiser thing for a political person, and this for my niece who's a House representative from Polk County. She was having a little fundraiser, and this girl comes up and starts talking to me, and I'm, trying to be. She goes, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And I said, "Not really." She goes, "I was one of the kumquat contestants 2 years in a row," and I'm like,
"Oh man,
okay." Now I once she said it, then because I knew you saw it, but you didn't, because that used to be the thing. I used to have to go to the Kumquat Festival, and it's. I guess I guess I may like the limelight. I may like shining, but it's really more about the kumquat itself. It's not. Yeah, I've been accused of being a whatever narcissist or whatever they call them, or but I look, I enjoy talking about them. If you turn off the cameras and we talk, we'll talk just as long. If you'll sit here, I'll talk to you about kumquats.
I'm sure,
and about my life. I'm glad you asked me about my life, because my life was just a normal Joe life, in my opinion.
I don't know about that.
I know,
lived quite the eventful life, sir. You are.
I've lived a good life.
Yeah.
Back when I was young, I was a pretty good water skier, barefoot water skiing, solemn, a little bit of trick, but mainly just enjoyed the water. Loved to swim.
Yeah.
Loved to fish, hate to catch.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Love to fish, hate to catch.
Don't like touching like that?
No, just don't like all the work that's involved in it. You catch it, and this saltwater fishing is really bad.
Yeah.
Because you got slots, you got what's in season, what's not.
Yeah.
I like freshwater fishing. You catch it.
Yeah. Get some brim, toss some back bass or some catfish.
Yeah. If it's too small, you throw it on the shore. If it's too big, you turn it loose, or you put it in a frying pan.
Yeah.
That's the part I never did like. I never knew how to fillet. I've learned how to fillet.
Sure.
But I just enjoy being on the water, and just that probably is one of the things that just I can go out and get in water and swim, or just be there, or just be near a waterfall, or I guess if I could say if I could do it every day, I'd go somewhere near a waterfall and walk by it and just enjoy sitting there watching the moving water. Or one of the coolest things is, you ever watched a fire really burn up a piece of wood? The whole time. I mean, now I'm not talking about going there and watching some little stick burn up. I'm talking about watching a log totally oxidize.
I have not.
And totally, I mean,
have not.
Because that's kind of a really cool thing to really watch it. Or maybe I'm a psychotic arsonist and just hide behind the kumquat. Hide behind the kumquat.
Yeah.
The kumquat arsonist.
So you guys also have a gift shop. Where people can come and see you and buy some stuff. And
we do have a gift shop. The sad thing is, we've only got a few more days left because we're running out of fruit, and labor's just too expensive to stay open.
Sure.
So we're going to be closing on the 12th of March,
Okay.
Which is just next week. The gift shop carries all of our marmalades, jellies, salsas, kumquat pie, Rosemary's kumquat pie.
Yeah.
After
I'm gonna
my
have to
mom,
try that. Yeah.
it's delicious. It's awesome. It's like you've had dreamsicle? No, you've never had a dreamsicle. It's a taste of citrus, orange, and kind of. It's like eating an orange and a tangerine at the same time with it's very good.
Okay.
Very good.
And so that's at 34323.
No, 31647.
31647.
31647.
Gotcha.
31647.
Gotcha.
Gude Road.
Gude Road.
And we're open on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. This weekend next. We're open from 9 to 4.
9 to 4.
Mm-hmm. In November, we will be open every day of the week. First of November,
Okay.
We'll be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, Saturday 10 to 4.
Got it.
Of next season.
Okay.
And we will still have everything there. If you need products, we do have some local stores that do carry our products during the off season.
Okay.
We have Charlie's Market, Charlie's St. Joe Market.
Yep.
They're on St. Joe Road. We have the Farmhouse Cafe in Dade City. Farmhouse Market and Cafe on 5th Street in Dade City.
Okay.
With the Jiffy Store in St. Anne carries our pies and some of our products.
Okay.
Olga's Bakery and Deli carries the Kumquat Pie year-round.
Huh. Okay.
And we now have over in Holiday, Starkey's Market is carrying our Kumquat Pie.
Huh. You are all over.
Well, we're trying to get we used to sell to Cisco, so we were in quite a few things, but the problem with Cisco was we were selling to them, and we didn't have the puree to support that now. But the problem with them is they wanted $5 million liability insurance on it, and that liability insurance there's another thing when you're in our business, you got to have liability insurance, which that gets pretty expensive. And what we were making off of the pie was paying that liability insurance, basically. 1/4 of what we made when we were year-round, 1/4 of it was just covered that liability. So we carry a $2 million liability on all of our other products, but that's just our standard that we carry anyway.
Huh.
And
Okay.
we hope nobody's ever going to collect $2 million off anything.
Right. Sure. Sure.
It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Our kumquat's not going to hurt you.
Yeah. Right.
And
right.
everything else we have is good for you,
Yes, sir.
If it's healthy, it's good.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, God bless you, man. Thank you very much for joining me here today. We'll do this again next year or later this year, right around November when your season starts back up to get that free advertising out there for you. So thank you so much for doing this. Everybody at home, thank you also for listening in. If you've enjoyed the show and would like to hear more like this, then please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. We will be bringing you a lot more content just like this one. I'm Eric Baker. I'm your host of The Art of Business. Thanks a lot for joining us. Bye for now.